Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Natalie Slawinski. Natalie is Professor of Sustainability and Director of the Center of Social and Sustainable Innovation at the Gustavson School of Business, University of Victoria. She earned her PhD in Strategic Management from the Ivey Business School at the University of Western Ontario. Her research focuses on understanding sustainability, temporality, and paradoxes in organizations in the context of social enterprise. Today, we will discuss her new book, Revitalizing PLACE through Social Enterprise, focusing on the work with Shorefast in Newfoundland and the Toquaht Nation on Vancouver Island, published by Memorial University of Newfoundland Press. It's a great pleasure to have you on my show, Natalie.
Thank you, David, for inviting me.
This book introduces the place framework approach to revitalize communities. Can you explain what the place framework is?
Yeah, the PLACE framework came about somewhat serendipitously. My research team and I had been doing research with Shorefast, which is a nonprofit organization on Fogo Island. They run social enterprises such as the Fogo Island Inn, which has become quite famous for its approach, its place-centric approach to revitalizing the economy of Fogo Island. And all of the profits of that enterprise go back into the community. So I was quite interested in studying it and built a research team. And over about a decade, we worked with Shorefast to study their approach. And by the time we were kind of nearing the end of the data collection and analysis, we started to think about how to share these learnings with other communities, other practitioners. And we decided to kind of focus on 5 principles and then to coalesce them into a framework. So PLACE is it's an acronym for each of the principles. The 5 principles essentially are promote community leaders.
Okay.
So meaning that the work can't happen with just 1 or 2 key leaders in a community. Others have to be promoted, meaning supported. There needs to be capacity building in the community for others to kind of step up and do this difficult work of revitalization.
Okay.
The L stands for linking divergent perspectives.
Okay.
This work is made harder by the fact that everybody has an opinion about what the community should do. So there are lots of not just different opinions, but divergent perspectives that might actually be quite in tension with each other. So one of the principles is how do you link those? The A is assessing local assets and capacities.
Okay.
So or amplifying those capacities and assets. Every place has assets and capacities, but sometimes they go unnoticed or unvalued. So the work of this work is about understanding how to amplify those assets and then doing so. The C is conveying compelling stories. The stories that you tell about a community bring energy to the community. If you tell positive stories that are grounded in, of course, truth, but also shine a light on some really important kind of values and assets of the place that can really galvanize action. And then the E is engaging in both end thinking. So this is really about engaging with complexity and finding ways to, instead of say, we have to choose between doing A or B, how do you actually find a way to think about how to do A and B?
Yeah.
Because we tend to think in either ors, and being able to think in a complex way is helped by taking a both end approach. And it also, I should add maybe one more thing about the PLACE framework, which is that we tested it first and foremost in a workshop that we held on Fogo Island in 2018, and we call these workshops the PLACE Dialogues. They're an annual event. So community leaders were able to sort of weigh in and share their experiences of community revitalization work. And we were able to then kind of expand the framework and really deepen it. And we have continued to work on deepening this framework.
Mhm.
So that's how the framework came about.
Nice. So why you decide to write this book?
Yeah, so basically Memorial University Press was aware of the work that we were doing with Shorefast, and they had heard about the PLACE framework, and they invited us to submit a manuscript to them.
Okay.
And the other thing that happened also to make this book work is that we were already working on a new research project that was extending the work we had done on Toquaht Island to other communities in Newfoundland, Labrador. So we already had data collected in other communities. And so this all sort of came together really nicely. Our research team was multidisciplinary. So our editorial team was multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary, and we already had partners that we were working with in other communities. So we decided to turn those studies into individual chapters, each one illustrating in more depth one of the 5 principles of the PLACE framework.
Very nice. Very nice. And your place framework is different from other place framework because there are other communities across the globe, like New Zealand and Australia, some other places. They also have a kind of a similar idea of place framework. Not necessarily they're using the same acronyms, but very similar concept.
Yeah, place-based community development
Yeah,
is not new. And there are other frameworks out there, and
yeah,
ours is not, the idea isn't to replace those frameworks, it's really to be complementary.
yeah,
For example, there's the asset-based community
yeah,
development.
yeah,
ABCD is a really
yeah.
important framework.
Okay,
And so the A in our framework is really about ABCD.
okay,
We just add other components that we found through our research to be really important for social entrepreneurs who want to do this sort of work in their community.
very nice. Your book includes several case studies, and you divide it into 2 parts. The part one contain cases from Newfoundland and Labrador, and the part two goes beyond Newfoundland and Labrador. Can you briefly share what these cases are?
Yeah, sure. So as I said earlier, we already had research sites and we're studying them. So the
Mhm,
first 6 cases or chapters
mhm,
are of 6 Newfoundland Labrador communities that we,
mhm,
the co-editors and
mhm.
other members of our research team had been studying.
Yeah.
And then the last 4 chapters are cases from beyond Newfoundland Labrador. So there's a
Okay.
case from Vancouver Island of
Okay.
the Toquaht Nation and their
Okay.
work on economic self-determination.
Mhm.
There's a case study also on Tulsa, Oklahoma, and revitalizing their downtown core. There's a case
Okay.
study that takes place in Luton, outside of
Okay.
London, England, in the UK,
Okay.
which had a very kind of violent history of uprisings, and
Mhm.
they used a really interesting and innovative approach to revitalize. To work on revitalizing their community. And then we have a case study of a social and entrepreneurial ecosystem in Waterford, Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Hmm.
it's not only from Canada, but also you have included studies from basically international studies. Can you share one of your favorite cases from Newfoundland and Labrador? I'm sure all cases are great, so
Yeah,
probably hard for you to pick one.
it is hard because they are all unique and all interesting in their own
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
The case study of Shorefast is the one that I know best because we studied
yeah,
and worked with Shorefast
yeah.
for over a decade. So that one I would say is the one I know best and I find really interesting because if it wasn't
Okay.
for our work with Shorefast, the book
Yeah,
wouldn't exist.
yeah.
So that one, I think what drew me
Hmm.
personally to want
Hmm.
to study Shorefast's approach is because it was really bold. They led with the arts, which is
Hmm.
a bit unusual.
Hmm.
Um, they also engaged with place very deeply with the history and the traditions, the heritage
Hmm.
of the place. It's the natural environment, the built environment, the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a very holistic approach to community
Mm-hmm.
development, very place-based.
Yeah.
And out of that place-based approach came some really innovative ways of thinking about development and how to build an economy, first and foremost, but also to do so in a very respectful way, in a way that's respectful of the place, it's the community, the natural environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that would be my the
Yeah.
example I know best, and
Yeah.
that's near and dear to my heart.
So I'm going to ask you, can you also share a favorite case beyond Newfoundland and Labrador?
Yeah, well, as you know, I moved to Vancouver Island to take the
Yeah.
position at the University of Victoria at the
Yeah.
Gustavson School of Business.
Yeah.
And so I've been getting to know this place.
Nice.
And so the chapter in the book that feels near and dear to my heart right
Yeah.
now, given where I live and
Yeah.
given also a whole bunch of other factors, which I'll talk about in a moment, is the chapter 7, which is about the Toquaht Nation.
Okay.
And so my colleague here at Gustavson, Matt Murphy, and his research team worked collaboratively with members of the Toquaht Nation to study their approach, their place-based approach to economic self-determination. And they together developed a Toquaht project assessment system. So it's a way of evaluating economic development opportunities and making sure that they align with the values of the Toquaht Nation.
Yeah.
And so what I love about that chapter is that it's highlighting the role of Indigenous knowledge systems and values in revitalizing places. And you know, Indigenous peoples and First Nations in Canada, that approach, that knowledge system tends to be very, very much one of honoring the land, honoring the place, stewarding the land, understanding that everything is interconnected, you know, making sure that there's reciprocity, that you're giving back to the earth, not just taking from the earth. There's also you know, deep respect for place in their approach. So I think fundamentally, we have so much to learn from Indigenous knowledge systems if we want to do this work of revitalizing places, revitalizing communities. So my hope is that we can do more of this work and learn more from our, you know, from Indigenous people on how to respectfully revitalize places.
Yeah, that's very nice, very nice. And so, what do you hope the reader takes away from your book?
Yeah, I hope that practitioners. So the one thing I didn't mention is the book is written really for two audiences.
Okay.
One is an academic audience, so scholars who do research in this area.
Yeah.
And the other is practitioners, so community leaders. My hope is that the community leaders learn some different approaches that have worked elsewhere in the world. Maybe they draw inspiration from those approaches. Maybe they feel more valued for the work that they do because they see that, you know, what we're trying to do with this book is really honor that work. For the scholars, the academics reading the book, I hope that we're going to see more research in this area from various disciplines and maybe more interdisciplinary research as well.
Yeah. So obviously now book is out, and now you can reflect back and think about this book. What did you like about this whole experience? You know, collaboration, editing, and now you kind of sit back and look at the book and say, "Wow, it's done."
Yeah. So I think the book really was, as I said, a collaboration. And collaboration is not easy because for a whole bunch of reasons. So there's the collaboration between scholars from different disciplines, and then there's a collaboration between scholars and practitioners.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's those collaborations that made the book what it is. So I'm really proud of the final product because I know how much hard work went into it by all of the author teams.
Yeah.
And also, let's also think about all of these communities that we're showcasing in the book and the hard work that those communities have been putting into revitalizing their place.
Yeah.
So that feels really meaningful. So the book project to me just feels very meaningful. And talking to some of the practitioner authors, my sense is from talking to them that they feel really proud to have their work showcased. So I am happy at how it all kind of came together, and hopefully it has some benefits to a variety of folks.
Well, congratulations on this successful project. I want to ask you questions, your current work. You are the director of the Center for Social and Sustainable Innovation at Gustavson School of Business, University of Victoria. Can you share some of the research the center is involved in?
Yeah, so the Center for Social and Sustainable Innovation is a center that's been at Gustavson for over a decade. And it was kind of designed to bring together sustainability scholars within Gustavson and to really work to advance sustainability within the business school. So it's a center that is focused on one faculty. Other centers are focused, across the university and various, they're more inter kind of university centers. So ours is intra. So the idea is that we're trying to promote more sustainability research and more thought leadership in sustainability and teaching as well. We work hard to bring more sustainability content into our classes at all levels. And what we've been doing in the last couple of years is really aiming for research and teaching that advances sustainability sort of to the next level. So we're thinking now more about regeneration. So aiming for net positive impacts. So the type of research that's happening at Gustavson around regeneration is around revitalizing communities, working with First Nations, understanding how to enhance democratic processes, working, to enhance nature. So it really is, there's a collection of people that we call fellows who work together and we're building expertise in the area of regenerative sustainability. And it's a pretty exciting time to be having these conversations because it seems like the world really needs a different approach to sustainability right now. What we've done in the past has not really gotten us to where we need to be.
Yeah, for sure. And because you have accumulated so much experience and meaningful research your center is doing. So I was wondering, is there also a collaboration from other institutions around the world and hoping they seek your expertise and experience as they improve their own sustainability effort within their own campuses and the communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have been working with other institutions, other universities around the world to support their work around sustainability. And in one instance, we had our associate director of CSSI, that's the acronym for the center. Her name is Heather Ranson, and she went to Thailand to work with a university there to help them with their their sustainability goals and how to embed those into their university. And she worked with their senior leadership team, and that really came out of a recognition that UVic really has a lot of expertise in this space. We also work with, we have a CFAL, a center here that is accredited by the United Nations, is run by Crystal Tremblay. And that is really designed to offer training that is around sustainability to members of the community, but also to other institutions as well. So we have quite a lot of expertise at Gustavson, at UVic more broadly around sustainability, and we're starting to kind of share that expertise more widely around the world. Yeah.
Very nice. Finally, what is your advice to researchers who wish to take on similar types of research?
Yeah, so maybe something I didn't say explicitly, but I will say now is that the book took very much a community kind of action research approach or community-based research approach. So working closely with communities, with participants to co-create the knowledge, the research. And that approach to research is challenging. It's time consuming. It means really understanding the needs of your partner. But it's also really very rewarding because in this, in an age of polycrises around the world, we need to be taking deeper and more impactful, steps. And researchers can be part of having impact.
Yeah.
But it does require a different approach to doing research and making sure that we are actually helping the people we are studying or the organizations that we're studying or the communities that we're studying, really helping them achieve their goals as well. So my advice is kind of be humble, be vulnerable in doing this work, recognize that we are not the experts, that there are other ways of knowing, other knowledge systems out there that are really important to understand and honor, and that can be very complementary to academic knowledge. And finally, just have the courage to do this kind of research, knowing that the world is changing, and I think it's becoming more valued. At least in business schools, we're seeing a bit of a shift here through accreditation bodies and through the academy, that I think this work is starting to gain more widespread recognition and be rewarded. Because I also understand that academics have, have a tenure clock that they need to pay attention to as well. So I don't want to, give the impression that everybody should do this. It's not for everybody. And, but if people want to do this work, I think it does take quite a bit of humility and vulnerability.
Yeah. I think you raise a very interesting point, because as a researcher, a lot of time we spend a lot of time, energy conducting research. But I think what left after we did research is the follow-up part, like how does the research is used. And I think that's one of the gap I think you kind of mentioned, that going beyond the research. So
yeah, it's being thoughtful about how we disseminate our research before we start the research, because that dissemination the approach that we want to take might determine how we do the research, and then engaging early and often with those practitioners that you're doing the work with and for, to make sure that your dissemination strategy is actually going to be useful to them.
Thank you for your time, Natalie. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, David. You too.